walk out.
No.
Check.
Apparently we're rolling.
Check. We're rolling.
Awesome.
Is the time
Again.
counter rolling?
Yeah.
Okay, so this
Does it
is
say one?
episode 4, take 1.
Hi, Kariku.
Hey. Are we doing a thing?
Welcome to Clashing Plaids.
Are you recording that bass sound with no other vocal?
We'll do that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. So if you guys give me one moment here, and...
It's cowbell.
I know more cowbell, man. It's like,
You hear that?
That's so evil.
Okay, gents.
I got a
we're ready.
fever.
Oh.
All right.
Whenever you are.
Well, hello. Welcome back to the Shuffle and Flow show. I'm Michael, and Nathan is over there, and Mr. Aaron Cash is in the center.
We are Clashing Plaids today.
Clashing Plaids are in the house. Hey, we wanted to touch base with Aaron's beginnings today. So we wanted to ask him, how did you start dancing? Well, if you didn't guess by now, he's from Australia. So it's a dual question. How did he start dancing? And how, as an immigrant, did you start dancing in America?
Well, I was born in a pouch.
In a pouch. In a pouch. Lovely.
Yes, you're tired, you're poor, you're hungry.
Yes. No, Mummy made me do it.
How old were you when you started?
I was 8 years old. My mum decided, in some brilliant flash of inspiration, to take me to dance class. And my cousin was a really famous choreographer in Australia. He was like his name was Ross Coleman, and they called him Rossi. He was like Bob Fosse of Australia. I mean, the guy was genius, probably the best choreographer I've ever worked with in my life. But I grew up in another state. She called him up and said, who's the best person to take him dancing? Learn dancing from. So Clarissa Hill, Miss Hill, she's about this big. She's like a munchkin person. She's like my second mum. I love Miss Hill. But I was 8 years old, this fat kid from the south side of Brisbane, very working class. I had on my jazz pants, which was stretchy, and a white Bonds shirt, which is like a Hanes shirt, tucked in, and the rolls of fat were just hanging over the sides.
You were a heavy kid?
I was a fat kid.
Really heavy? Or just sort of...
Well, look, I thought at the time, kids now, I mean, obesity's out of control. What I thought I was, but I look at photos now, and I was, puppy fat. But I end up there, and I was the only boy in my grade. There was one other boy at the studio, and his name was Jamie, and he was like a young Nathan Prevost. He was like a bronzed Aussie god. He was a
bronzed Aussie god.
He was a god. The kid was like shredded.
9.
And I'm totally, and I'm an Oompa Loompa, and I was like, oh great. So I freaking hated it, and she would make me go to dance class. It was like 4 times a week. She'd make me go.
Did you take everything? Ballet,
everything,
tap,
ballet,
jazz,
tap, you named it.
Acrobatics?
We didn't have acro at school,
Okay.
so I wish. But Mum would force me to be raining outside and be like, oh, it's too dangerous, we can't go. She'd be like, get your ass in the car. And the freaking wedges, you remember the wedges? And we called my mother the Dragon Lady, okay, because she had a temper. And those wedges would come flying across the room. And then, oh shit, then you get your ass in the car. No one messed with the Dragon Lady. So she forced me to go, and I hated it. I hated being in there with all those girls and up the back there and giggling. And, I'd make up any excuse not to. I'd be like, oh, I've got to go to the bathroom. But we persisted, well, she persisted with me, and I kept going, and Miss Hill was so kind and lovely. And about 6 months into it, I got bit by the bug. And I started to fall in love with it. And then came the end of year concert. And this was amazing. So she had 2 boys, the only boys in the school. She was going to feature these boys in an end of year concert number. So she was going to finish the whole concert with The Love Boat. Love Boat, exciting and new, come aboard, hey. That was going to be the big number. And the whole school was going to be in it. So we'd all be in the first part in our own grade and performing, and then we'd come out and do the dynamic duo halfway through, the 2 boys coming on stage doing the piece. And
Frick and frack.
Frick and frack, the bronzed Aussie and the Oompa Loompa. And I was, her genius costume was like, oh, I can just see it now, boys. It's going to be great. So, I can see the colours. We'll have buttercup yellow and electric blue, and we'll put you in electric blue Speedos. I'm a fucking fat kid. And electric blue Speedos. I'm like, what? I was mortified. I was like, but
you didn't get yellow.
Oh, well, no, yes. No, that's what we wore on top. The buttercup yellow terry toweling shirt.
Oh.
Thank God.
Bikini?
Yeah, yes, like Speedos, mate.
And
Speedos.
bare legs.
Yeah, budgie smugglers, as we call them in Australia. And bare legs, exactly. I'm 8 years old. I'm traumatized.
Mortified, yeah.
I was mortified, but I was like, okay, well, what are you going to do? I was the kind of kid where you used to stand in the corner and eat cow dung, for 3 hours. I'd do it. Oh, okay, so I'm going to do it. Here's Jamie's all there, and all the girls are all like, oh, he's so cute, So we get to dress rehearsal, and dress rehearsal was in this amazing, the Chanel Theatre in Brisbane, which is a beautiful, on the university, I think it's Queensland, University of Queensland campus, and it's in St Lucia, very lush, green, affluent area, and this theatre has a lot of history and tradition, and as a kid, you're walking in there and backstage, 8 years old. I'd never been in that environment before. My mum was a florist and my dad was like a truck driver, so it was magical. And seeing the flies and the smell and the hairspray of the girls. So we have dress rehearsal and she's on stage and we're in our costumes and she's with the boombox playing the music like this, and we do the first part with our groups and then we come off and I'm getting ready to make the next entrance with Jamie for the boys duo, and she says before we get out, boys, take your shirts off. This is while the numbers, and like everything's going on. I'm shitting myself. I'm like, what? So I'm like, okay. And when you're in the moment and you have no choice, and you're just like, oh, bugger it, and you just take the thing off, you go, okay, and then it's time to go on stage. And as soon as I stepped foot on stage, it was like everything was like slow. It hit me. The lights hit me. The hairspray of the girls. It was like slow mo. It was like totally. The fat's going blah 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 blah. Super slow mo. Super slow mo, and I was on fire. It was just like I couldn't hit it. You know what it's like when you dance and you can't do it hard enough? It hit me at that moment. It was a defining moment. I've got a mate, Mike Murray, who always says there's this moment when God speaks. And it was at 8 years old, God spoke. And I heard this little voice inside of my head saying, you're going to be doing this for the rest of your life. And it was like, And she stopped the music halfway through the piece. She stopped, stop, boys, stop. She said, Aaron, go back and do that again. I was like, I thought I was in trouble. I thought, oh God, what have I done now? She said, no, not you, Jamie, just Aaron, like this. And the whole school's there watching this, and I was like, she played the music, and I went out, and I was shitting myself, and I went out, and I do it again. Full out, and it was the same thing. I couldn't bite into it hard enough, and the choreo was so naff. I mean, it was like, it was cheese down. It was so cheesy.
But you were in it.
Yeah, no, totally. And I was in it, and I finished the piece, and she stopped, and she said, every single one of you, this is how you do it. This is how it has to be done. You have to take a page out of his book. Awesome. And it was like 8 years old to have that. I was like, and it was such it was a watershed moment in my life. And I really have been doing it I have been. I'm still scarred. I hate taking my shirt off. Still scarred when it comes to that. But that was when I fell in love and I knew that I'd be dancing for the rest of my life.
Did your physical appearance hinder you moving forward, or did the weight come off naturally, or did you have to work it off?
The weight came off naturally, and I was one of those kids that was pretty athletic. I mean, I played cricket and I played rugby up until I was 15, along with the dancing, and I played 2 codes of rugby. My mum and dad were amazing when I think about it. They were taxi service, and they ran us all over Brisbane.
Shout out to all the parents, taxis.
Major, and the support, and my dad, my other memories too of my dad. My dad died about a year ago, and he was, he liked to drink, but Dad would be waiting there till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night to take me home. He'd worked a full day. He would get up at 2 in the morning to go work at the flower markets, and he would sell flowers there. Finish work at about 6:37, and then he'd have to go around different places they sell their product and check on them and blah blah blah. But then he would end up inevitably at the pub placing bets, and then he'd swing by and he'd wait for me, listening to the races on the radio, probably consuming about another 3 6-packs, and then there was and he'd place his bets with the SP bookie. There was a phone booth right across from the church hall where we grew up, where we were dancing. So I'd be in there dancing away, and I think he loved it because he didn't have to deal with my mother. And he'd just be having his beer, punting on the horses, going over, making his bets, and then we'd drive home. And he would be full as a family po. I mean, he would be pissed as a mute, and no seatbelts.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. Now I think about it, I'm like, holy cow. Yep. The scary thing is, there's probably still people out there doing that. And he did that up. He would drink and drive
Yeah.
They finally got him, I think, in '84.
Uh-huh.
But all those years now, I think, oh my God,
It was
it's crazy.
yeah, it was.
But
pretty much.
he was so supportive, and so was my mum. They were amazing. And when I was 15, I said I want to move to Sydney because my cousin had a performing arts school there, and I'd done a summer school with him. Then I auditioned for the scholarship program, and I got accepted. And I was acting, singing, and dancing. And
At 15.
at 15, yeah.
Coming up to 15 and you were still in your local school, did you have schoolmate problems that when they found out you were dancing?
For the longest time, I was so deathly scared that anyone would find out that I danced. And of course, inevitably, you go to school with a girl whose brother goes to the same school, and then they find out. And then up until I was about 12, 13, I thought my name was Puff the Bloody Dancer, you know, because, there's the Puff the Bloody Dancer, he does dancing, you know. But I was also a big kid, so most of the guys that would do that, they would be playing football with me as well, and so you get a little bit of payback on the football field. But it was still humiliating. One day, when I was about 13 or 14, I was going to Catholic school, and a couple of the boys went through my bags, and they were running around the quadrangle at lunchtime with my dance belt and another one with a pair of tights on my head. And I was thought to myself, if you knew where that's been, you wouldn't have it on your head.
Joke's on you, mate.
Totally.
Definitely not a hat.
Bloody idiots.
That's not a hat.
But then you know what it's like with dance. You're so young. I think it's a short career, finite career. You need to move fast on it. And at 15, I had a choice to either go to the Australian Ballet School or the Queensland Ballet Company had a school, Queensland Dance School of Excellence. I went there for about 6 months. I hated it because it was just ballet. That's all it was.
Too regimented.
I mean, I was bad. I'd get stoned. I'd be in class, stoned off my face. And, I mean, the girls were all lovely. I still got a couple of friends from there. But it didn't satisfy me. I needed to do the acting and the singing and the dancing because, yes, I danced, but my mum had me in youth theatre. You know, we'd be, you know, singing. That's what I'm talking about. Like Saturdays and Sundays were nuts.
Yeah.
Get up in the morning, be at dance class. We'd be dance class by 8, leave there about 11. Then she'd take me to youth theatre. That'd be like from 11:30 to 1:30. Then I'd have the football game or the cricket game in the afternoon. And that'd be anywhere on the north side, south side, east side, west side of Brisbane. And they were cool with it. And, you know, that was sort of, that was life. It was amazing.
Did you have a sense that even though you got made fun of, that you were something special? Did you have a sense of that specialness, of that gift that you were given early, or did that come later on as you became a professional?
That's really weird. I've never felt that I was special. That's a weird way of putting it.
Unique?
No, not unique. No, I just felt I had a passion. I had something that I burned for, and I didn't really think that it made me special. It was like it was a hunger and a pursuit. I mean, I would get home late at night, then I'd go into my room and I'd wrap myself with, you know, a cling wrap and put on plastic pants and you know, put on music and keep practicing kip-ups and things, you know, like that I couldn't do. You know you've been there.
I still can't do a kip-up.
Well, I couldn't for the longest time. Falling flat.
Yeah.
And then getting calluses on, you know, my lower part of my back from where the carpet burn and all that stuff. But being special, no. Maybe when I moved to Sydney and then there was interest and I got these scholarships to study at the different ballet schools. But my cousin was the one that talked me out of it, and he said no. And you'll get the ballet. I mean, it was like you know, because of the school that I went to, she was more jazz and tap, and the classical was not bad, but it wasn't, you know, by the time I got to sort of 15, I should have been a better stand classically. And I was a guy, so I got into the Aussie Ballet School, and I always had crazy jump. I could always jump. So that always worked on my side, but my cousin was like, no. You are going to be so bored if you just do ballet. You need to be versatile in this career. You have more strings to your bow. So you come, you'll do acting, singing, you'll get all forms of dance. And I did that for 2 years, and I had a scholarship with him. And that was the best training that I ever had, because it was amazing moving to Sydney and being by myself.
Did you live with him?
I did for a short amount, and his lover. It was like Torch Song Trilogy. And you know, my mum and dad always fought. And I went there and it was a sense of normalcy. and love, and they, he's another shocking alcoholic, but oh my God, he lived life in such an incredible way, and he's such an incredible talent, and his partner Michael Tyke, who was probably one of the greatest sort of musical directors that we've had in Australia, amazing man, amazing talent, and I'm around all these incredible Australian performers all the time, and just this, life was exciting, it was new, it was fresh.
Magical.
It was magic. It was exactly that. It was magical. And you turn up, and we worked our asses. I would be at 7:30. I'd get there, and I probably wouldn't finish till 11:30 at night. And then they lived in the city, so we'd walk home, and then sit up until about 2 o'clock talking, looking at videos or whatever. It was an amazing time. It was so inspiring.
What was the turning point for you to say, okay, I've learned what I've needed to learn from this school, and how did you move forward from there?
Well, I finished the course and the program, and then I started working straight away. I started working
in Sydney.
In Sydney,
Commercial work?
Yeah, commercial work in nightclubs. I was doing TV. Ross would use me on stuff. There was another amazing guy called David Atkins.
At 18.
Yes, this was like even while I was in school, they would let me work. This is 17. My first real big job was for Ross. We did the Australian Film Awards, which was amazing. We've got a party going on back here.
We're at Roxanne's in Long Beach.
Oh, yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
They were
Thank you,
really,
Roxanne's.
really good to let us shoot here.
Totally.
But yeah, so I started working right away, and then after a couple of years of doing that, I worked with this guy called David Atkins, David's like this big. He was famous in Australia because he created a show called Dancing Man, which I ended up going into. He was an amazing. He still is. He's an amazing director. He does all the Olympics now. But David did Chorus Line. He did the album Watch and Cisco, Pitter Pat, Bum Bum Bum. He originated that in Australia, and my cousin Ross originated the Paul role. And they were really the two mega talents in Australia, and completely different. One was very heterosexual, the other one very homosexual. Incredible taste and lighting, amazingly trained classically. He was one of the original founding members of the Sydney Dance Company, Ross was. And then you had David's song and dance tap man. Well, Ross could do it all too, but he didn't have Ross's classical training. But they were amazing, and both of them really shaped me. Because, I'm a big guy, and it was David, when I was probably he would come and teach classes 16, 17, and then I started working for him 17, touring Australia. We had a break for 3 months from school, and he used me, and I was promoting alcohol illegally. It was Kahlua, 1 part sin, 2 parts soul. And I would have to get out there. You do these 3 routines over the course of the night, and they'd be 10 minutes each. And they're, again, really bad jazz dancing, but so puffy, cardio. And then I'd have to sell all this product. We got another prize tonight here. If you go up and get your Kahlua or milk, you'll get a tab like this, and we'll make a draw at the end of the night. Could win yourself a fabulous visor. and T-shirts.
Stay to the end, you might get a visor.
Exactly right. But this is in the dregs of the dregs we're doing, in Coburg in Melbourne. And I remember getting big bottles thrown at me. It's get off, you poofter! I was like, oh, jeez. And I'm 17. So, and eventually I got fined because they found out I was underage. But his dancing was really, it was quintessential, how many moves can you throw into 1 count? And because he was this big and he could do it. He's like Jaime, But holy cow, great training. And it really helped me move fast for a big person.
And you did that until, did you leave for America?
19, so I get to 19, and then this is something I'm not really proud of, but I was working with this woman called Jackie Love, and I was her boy dancer. She was a fabulous cabaret singer in Australia, and she always had 1 male dancer. I had done this massive spectacular that Ross choreographed. It was the 1988 bicentennial performance, and it was televised and had Peter Allen, John English, all these great Australians, and Ross choreographed it. To this day, it holds up. It's so well done. And I wasn't supposed to do it. I was in Melbourne because I've always been one to train and keep training. Even today, I still keep it up. I grind away at it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do an intensive ballet workshop for the next 3 weeks. Well, Ross called me and said, okay, these boys are shit. I need you to come here now. And I'm like, okay. So they flew me up from Melbourne, and I think I learnt the whole thing, and then we did it. I had a week left. They'd been rehearsing for about 3 weeks.
Wow.
And he wasn't happy with it. So I went in there, and he featured me, and I worked with her, and she loved me. And she was like, oh, my God, you need to come and work for me. So then I started working with Jackie. And then about 3 months later, she said, we're going to the States. We're going to Lexington, Kentucky. And I was like, and all I'd ever dreamed of, because honestly, I'd seen videos like Nasty and you know, or, you know, I want to dance with somebody. And I was like, that's how I want to dance, with those guys. That's the type of dancing I want to do. Because Australia, I felt I'd plateaued. You know, you've got guys doing 5 pirouettes there, but you go to America, you see guys doing 15 pirouettes, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know, mind you, I've never been able to do 5 pirouettes, but still, it's something to aim for.
It's a challenge, yeah, absolutely.
So that I was like, that's it, that's the sign. I'm going to go to America. So I planned, and then I was bad. I told them, I gave them 2 weeks' notice before we left, and I said, I'm not coming back. And they had other guys that could replace me, but I didn't do it in a really, I should have maybe given them either more notice or come back and then use the money that I paid to go back again. But I was young and I was stupid, and I really regret that. That was a bad choice, and you know, I apologised to Jackie years later. But they also did some shitty things to me. Once we were performing at Keenelands in Lexington, Kentucky. That's the first place I came to, and we've been there. We performed there doing a music video years
Michael
later.
Montgomery.
Exactly.
Hey, little baby, won't you give me a sign? I'll do anything to make a man on mine.
No way.
Call.
No way.
Keith Young choreography.
I've used that
right.
song.
No way.
It's a great song.
That's crazy. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
So anyway, so we end up in Lexington, Kentucky, and we perform. And her management, he was Jim Brooks, he was not a particularly nice man. They took my passport and they took my ticket from me. And they said, well, you're not going anywhere. And so they made me buy back my passport and my ticket, but they only gave me my ticket back to Los Angeles. They kept the ticket for portion to Australia and said, you can't have that. So I made maybe like $400 on the job. And they took that so I could get my passport and my ticket to Los Angeles.
So you're flat broke.
So, but I had maybe $300 to my name. That was it. And I turn up in LA not knowing anyone. And as soon as so
You're not going to make a friend, so.
no, I'm terrible. I'm terrible at making friends. So I get to Hollywood Boulevard. Orange was like this little motel there, and I'm staying with one of the Australian, the trumpet player, Paul Panicki, who's another incredible artist. He was getting a trumpet from SRI, a new one. So he said, look, you know, I'm going to be in Hollywood for like a week. Stay with me. Oh, that's okay, cool. So stay with him. Incredible. And I turn the TV on, and the first thing that comes on, we get into LA, we're tired, we've been traveling, Star Search comes on. And the first thing I see is King Boys Club, Nathan Prevost, Bubba Carr, Bill Bowl, Eric Ellis.
Yeah.
And I went like, what the is that?
Heat, feel the heat. Your body to the beat.
Oh my God, I was so blown away. It was that inspired. I was like, right, I worked out for like the next 2 hours, stretching.
Go stretch!
And all I wanted to do was I needed to find, okay, who
are those guys?
I need to find them. And that became the mission. Now, my old girlfriend in Australia had worked on an Engelbert Humperdinck tour of Australia and worked with some dancers. Carrie, who is
Brennan.
Carrie married to Barry
Carrie
Layla.
French. Carrie French.
So, that's another one. That's seeing that video in Australia going, holy fuck, who are these guys? So she'd worked with him, and then she had a friend who was a musician that was a keyboard player on that. Long story short, I ended up calling him up because I'd met him once in Australia, going to pick her up after the show, and we had a drink, and he was a really nice guy. He's like, yeah, if you come out, come stay with me. He was out in Sylmar. Now, I really wore my welcome out there. I lasted out there for about 6 weeks, I think, and finally he was like, yeah, you need to go. But by then, he knew a bunch of dancers. He knew Jackie, and he also, I can't remember who else he knew. He knew someone else, and he contacted, was it Cecily?
Cecily Stewart?
Might have been Cecily.
Yeah.
And Cecily said, Jackie Slide. That's where you got to go to Morelandis, to Joe Tremaine. So one day, out of the he was so gracious. He was such a great guy. He takes me to the studio, and I'm there, and we find out what time class is. I take class. He goes and runs some errands, and I fall in love. And there's the likes of Michael Chambers, Nathan Prevost, Bubba Carr. There, Dave Carter was there. I remember that flaming red hair.
Yeah, and what do you call that? A bandana?
Bandana.
In his back pocket every day.
Yeah, exactly. and Billy Bowl. My Bill Bowl.
I miss dancing with Bill. He was such a great
dude,
dancer.
so clean and
probably still
turn
is.
like
Still
no.
is.
Yeah, no, absolutely, beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like you've arrived at the promised land. This is what I want, and so I started taking classes. Eventually, became friends with Dave and Dan Stoner, and they're like, "Well, move into us." I slept. Dave rented. I think he rented the couch for like $100 a month. I rented the carpet in front of the couch for like $50 a month, and then I ate everybody's food because I had no money.
Oh my god!
But we were in heaven. All we would do is dance all day. Dan Stoner and Dave Carter. I mean, Dave was so generous with me.
Yeah.
You know, he was amazing. He's a good man. And yeah, we would do hours and hours of dance, and then you'd finish afterwards. You'd talk until all hours of the morning. There was a 7-Eleven, and there was a medium strip, so we'd go and get a big gulp and these cookies, and we'd sit in this medium strip and dream about if I could get a tour, what would this person? And I mean, it was like freaking crazy.
Well, it was probably like just the next week when you booked Cher, probably, right?
Well,
couple years later.
Yeah, no, well, not quite, because I didn't want to go on audition for anything. I took 10 months of just studying. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And then I ran out, and then my visa ran out. I had to go back home. And by that stage, I'd had a girlfriend, Shannon Maloney, another incredible dancer.
Wow.
And I went back to Australia, and I was miserable. In that time, Kenny Ortega, though, had seen me dance at Moralandis and was like, "Where are you from?" Like this. So, and then
It's not obvious.
totally. And then he said, "Oh, I've got this thing upstairs I'm auditioning for. Come and dance for us." So I went up and danced, and then he's like, "Look, you're freaking great. You should start. I've got some stuff coming up. You want to work with me?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." So then he started using me as an assistant. So I went to Miami with him, and went to Chicago, we did all this stuff. But then my visa ran out. And I'm like, okay, I've got to go. So I left, and I took off, and I didn't really say anything to anyone. Back in Sydney for about a month, no money, broke, miserable. I was dressing on 42nd Street just to make enough money to save to come back. And, I'm dressing all these dancers, and who were all snooty and thought none of them had done what I'd done, and I'm there. It was very humbling, and I guess I needed that. And then at night time, I go and dance at this club at the Hilton called Juliana's, to make more money as well. So do a nightclub, because that was big then, the nightclub show, dancers. I mean, that was a great way to make extra cash. You did the same with Chippendales, both you guys, you know how it is.
Chippendales.
And a great way to keep your craft up. So I'm there back in a month. I'm staying with a friend, Raquel, and one day out of the blue, Kenny calls. He's like, "Well, what are you doing?" He's like, "How'd you get your number?" And he's like, "Oh, your old roommate in Bluffside, I think it was Dan Stoner, gave us your number." And he's like, "Oh, what are you doing in Australia?" I said, "Oh, my visa ran out, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Well, when are you coming back?" And I didn't know, because I didn't have enough money yet to buy a ticket. I said, "Oh, I'm not sure, And he's like, "Oh, that's a pity, because look, I've got Cher's tours coming up, and I've told her all about you, and you'd be perfect for it. She hasn't toured in 10 years, making a big comeback. It's going to be a really, really big show." I was like, "Oh, geez, I'd love to be there, but he's like, "Well, the audition." This was Wednesday in Australia, Tuesday in America, because Australia's a day ahead. The audition was going to be on Thursday, and I said, "Oh, look, I've got commitments. I'm dressing. I just couldn't let these people down, because also I felt bad after the Jackie Love incident where I left her in America. So I felt guilty.
Because you have a conscience.
Yeah, apparently. So I get off the phone, and Raquel, my roommate at the time, she said, "What are you, fucking nuts?" She said, "You call him back and say, hey, do you have the job or not?" So I called him straight back. I said, "Look, Kenny, do I have the job?" He's like, "No, look, as far as I'm concerned, you do. But she has final say on everybody. So you have to be there at the audition." So I was like, okay. So he said, "Look, if you're there, you've got a very, very good chance of getting this." I'm like, "Damn, okay, thanks, Kenny." So I hang up, and I called my mum, and I lied to my mum. I said, "Look, I told her, your chef's club, that Kenny, who I've been working with, they want me for the show, but I got to fly myself back there." And she's like, "Oh." So her boyfriend, Dudley, God rest his soul, he was tighter than a snake's bunghole, but he was also a good dude, and he lent me the money. And this is in the day now, so this was Wednesday. So he's like, yeah, I'll lend you the money. I'll wire the money into you, put it in your bank account, and you can go draw it out. So it was Wednesday, which used to be matinee show, 2-show day. All the blue rinses come in the, So I go in, and I'm thinking, oh God, what am I going to tell these guys? I have to leave the show now, and they've just, I've just been here. They've given me this job. They've been very gracious. So I tell Crystal, who's this gorgeous sort of head of wardrobe, big in musical theatres in Australia, and I say, Chris, I told him the story with Cher, and of course, it's all the queens. Because I love Cher. Oh my God, you've got to do it. This is amazing. Don't worry about the fucking dressing. Like, I'll get someone to come in and they can cover you.
Nice.
Like this. So I did my show, and then in between the two shows, I taught one of the dancers, Chris Horsey, another incredible Australian dancer. I taught him my Juliet, my nightclub show. So he learnt that, and then I did the dressing show in the nighttime show for 42nd Street, and I taught the replacement dresser.
Wow.
Went to the nightclub after that, did my nightclub show, went home, packed my bags, got up early in the morning. This is the day before internet,
Yeah.
So you couldn't buy a ticket online. I had to go into the travel agent. I first go to the bank, draw the money out.
Yeah.
Then, no sort of ATM or anything like that. Then pay hard cash for the ticket. Then go home. Raki took me to the airport. I jump on the plane. I land. I get in early in the morning. Shannon picks me up in the car. I get dressed in the car and I'm on my way out to Malibu because the audition's going to be at Pepperdine University.
Oh my gosh.
And I get there and there's like 300 people there. It's like nuts. It's packed. And I'm shitting myself because I've never borrowed that much money. I've never seen that much money in my life. $2,000, such a big amount. I mean, I never had any money. So I'm like, I've got to pay. How am I going to pay this back if I don't get this job? I'm like, screwed, like this. So we all get in there. I'm like, all right, just breathe, just learn the routine. Doriana's there with Bubba. They're the assisting Kenny Ortega. Kenny's there doing his thing, telling everyone, how great the tour's going to be, and everyone's like pumped, So we all learn the routine. Then they have the girls go in groups of 4. Great, they all finish. Then it's the guys' turn. And I'm not till the last group. And I'm watching all these guys in groups go in groups of 4. And it's building in me. I'm like, oh, fuck, I've got to get this, how am I going to pay them back? And then the music comes. And it was when God speaks. This thing took over my body and I was on fire. You know what it's like when it hits you and it's just like everything, all the training and everything just hit. And I danced out of my skin. I was like, okay, good. And so I was happy with that. I thought, okay, I've done a good job. If I don't get it, that's cool. I couldn't have danced any better. So they go, all right, guys, great. Go outside. We're going to make the first cut. And then we go out. We sit there for about 45 minutes. They bring everybody else back in. And Kenny's standing there, and he's got headshots there. And he puts down on the floor. He goes, okay, these people step forward. Michelle Rudy, Troy Burgess, Aaron Cash. You guys have got the job. You can sit down and watch everybody else audition.
Oh, wow.
When does that happen? And Cher's sitting there, at the desk at the front. She's got this, velour jumpsuit on with this cat in the hat, top hat on, and her little John Lennon glasses. And, my hair used to be down to here. And it was like, you guys, so I walk up and she goes, oh my God. She's like, look at you. She's like, you're like my Australian Thor.
I'm so sorry I can barely fit.
So that was my massive break, and then she sponsored me to get legal and my green card, and that was a 10-year, culminating in a 10-year career touring with her.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years.
10 years. Working with Dory, Bubba, Kenny, all these amazing dancers.
And that was just not the concert tour. That was videos and television specials and appearances all over the world, right?
It was amazing, all over the world.
Talk shows all over the world,
Yep.
entertainment shows all over the world.
Yep.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
How did you break with her? What took you away from Cher?
I was about 30 at the time, and in hindsight now, there was the Believe tour, it was 99, 2000, and I could feel, I've had 2 hip replacements, and that was really the turning point when I think it was my right hip started to go. In hindsight, I see it now, because I just didn't have the same snap that I had
10 years before.
10 years, yeah, exactly.
Who does?
Funny how that happens.
But I wanted to get more into acting, and there was a job for me back in Sydney, doing Shakespeare in the Park, and with 2 mates, and that's really where I wanted to head. But it was sad. It was really sad. It's like leaving a lover. You're a family. It's a leaving part of the family, and it wasn't easy, but. You
navigated it.
We navigated it, and you do what you got to do. And they were really lovely and gracious, and they let me go. you know. But that was an amazing time with that. But I think we're at that time where it's time to
about
wrap things
35
up.
minutes,
Yeah.
All right, so once again, you guys, we're the Shuffle and Flow Show, and if you have any comments or questions, concerns, or needs, let us know, theshuffleandflow@gmail.com. And we always forget to say this, but subscribe, like, and share on our YouTube channel. And spread the news. And we appreciate you tuning in. So we'll see you next time from who knows what the next location will be. Thanks a lot.
Hey.
Have a great day. Be kind to one another. Blah, 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 blah. What do you think?
I got aroused.
What do you think?
Stay there for the